Welcome viewers, I'm Dr. J.W. Morrison, theologist, Central Coast, New South Wales, Australia. I have Assyrian heritage and Aboriginal heritage and born to an Australian mother. This is the Gaza Strip. This is the land, the state, if they could have turned it into one, that the Palestinians were given. This is prime land. Okay, prime land. No different to the North Shore of New South Wales, Australia, from Palm Beach to Cronulla. All that land, right, they were given. And they couldn't manage it. Who are they? Hamas dug 700 metres worth of tunnels and set up military facilities and all the rest of it, while they surrogated Unrwa, right, this is about Unrwa, to parent the Palestinian people. Now, the Palestinian people aren't refugees, and that's what Unrwa is supposed to help, refugees. There was 3 million refugees in South Korea. They started Unrwa, right? And all of them people were fixed up in a short amount of time at the least cost. This has been going on for decades. And it'll never be fixed because Unrwa keeps adding on to the list of refugees from generation to generation without cancelling anybody out, apparently. But they've been given prime land. They've abused and neglected it and used it for the wrong motives. They've used it to try and annihilate the Jews. Let's just get a look at this. Whoops. In Israel, Jerusalem, this land here, right? It's not about the land, it's about the people, their differences with the Jews. Okay, and as far as from the river, right, the river to the sea, these people couldn't manage what they've got. Look at this here. Why is that okay and that's not? Because they abused it, they terrorized everyone around them, and now what have you got? You've got a land that's been destroyed. And you could give them the North Shore, that's the North Sinai Peninsula, as it were. You could have given them the North Shore of New South Wales, you could have given them this, that, all of that. It wouldn't have been any different. It wouldn't have been one bit different. And the Egyptians, they'll shoot them. The Egyptians will shoot these Palestinians if they try and cross the border. They'll shoot them on the spot. Simple as that. They know what they're like. So it's not about land. They were given land, right? And they could have done more with it than what they've done. And wherever they go, these fanatics, because their mindset's for destruction, unfortunately, they ruin. Now, this woman here doesn't want Hamas to be dismantled, even though she admitted that they're a terrorist organisation. She lied when she said they've got nothing to do with Palestine. They've got everything to do with Palestine. They're actually the government of Palestine. She's saying that Israel's trying to genocide and do what Hitler did to the Jews in Palestine. They're not. The Hamas have set up their military vantage points in hospitals, community centres, anywhere else there's civilians to try and use them as a human shield, but it's gotten to the point where Israel can't tolerate anymore. Both sides are losing civilians, and it's no good. One's not more or less valuable than the other, but it comes down to the motives and the ways in which these military forces are going about it. Israel's trying to save lives, and Hamas is using lives as human shields. This is Marie Farquhar. She's supposed to be an Australian senator, but I've never heard her once mention an Australian community, an Australian suburb or anything like that. She's a Palestinian Muslim fanatic.
But is it just to this issue that the Prime Minister's raised about sectarianism, the warning he's issued about faith-based candidates or parties? Do you share that concern? It sounds like you're saying as long as they're trying to represent the concerns of the community, that's okay. But if they're running on their religion, is that an issue for you?
Well, you know, we start our day in the Senate with the Lord's Prayer. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, and we won't forget that, Ms. Farquhar, because it's a Christian constitution, and that's the way we start the day. Don't make out there's something wrong with that. That is so rude. This is what they did in the Olympics with the Lord's Supper. They made a mockery of it. This country, Australia, right, is where it is, the way it is, because of our constitution. Right, because of our Christian constitution. Let's go to the great south land of the Holy Spirit. Look at it. That's our land. And she's got the hide to come here and say, well, look at the Parliament. They start with prayer every morning. Let's not forget. We won't forget that, Ms. Farquhar. We won't forget that. Let me remind you.
And as much as I would love for our parliaments to be secular, I completely believe in a secular parliament.
You'd like to get rid of the Lord's Prayer?
Of church and state. I would like to get rid of it because, you know,
Well, that's crossed the line, hasn't it? She's just crossed the line. Anybody that's watching this that's Australian, really Australian, she's just crossed the line and she needs to resign.
So many peoples of different faiths and from all over the world.
It doesn't matter whether they're of different faiths or not. At the end of the day, Australia, the great southland of the Holy Spirit, is Christian. It's a Christian country. That's all there is to it. There's no other way of saying it. It's not Muslim, it's not Hindu, it's not Chinese. Yeah, you've been invited to come, but it's Christian. It's built on Christian morals and principles, and they work. And we want to be careful. These people are starting to push their weight around. It's disgraceful. She would like to get rid of the Lord's Prayer. How dare she?
Live in this country, and that is not representative.
But on this
Parliament
issue,
is not representative.
I hear your point on that. So this issue the PM's raised, though, about faith-based, religious-based candidates, is that a concern for you?
It is not a concern for me. People have a right to, you know, to have faith in this country, and people have a right to express that faith. And it is absolutely disgraceful that Labor has been kind of, you know, unsourced whispers on, you know, kind of vilifying Senator Payman for expressing her faith. I mean, that is ridiculous.
They haven't done that at all. They haven't done that at all. Senator Payman vilified herself by walking out of the Labor Party with an agenda that was contrary to the commitments that she made.
We had the CDP. I was in New South Wales Parliament when the CDP was in the balance of power, and parties were very happy to do deals with them.
Will the Greens compete
no one
against,
raised a hue and cry about that.
Will the Greens compete against such candidates or cooperate with them?
Well, we in New South Wales, we usually run candidates in every electorate, and I think time will tell, depending on what policies these candidates have. That's how we determine how we work with other candidates.
Is it fair to say
parties.
the Greens would focus on the inner city and perhaps these independent candidates on the western suburbs?
Well, that's what I understand, that the independent candidate, the Peel-style independent candidates will be more focused in Western Sydney. But obviously, we will be running campaigns across New South Wales, across Australia, because there's a Senate vote to be, won as well.
Look, I want to ask you about protests, because the Greens have been sharing, well, lots of videos and so on. This video was the latest. It's the protest that took place at Parliament House on Thursday.
Now, let's see how she deals with this. They've totally violated, without any respect whatsoever, Parliament House. Right, accusing one of our allies for war crimes. No.
It was a security breach. The building was shut down to the public. School kids and so on weren't allowed in. The Greens sharing this video. Are you really encouraging this sort of behaviour, though?
David, I have been to protests, I think, every single week. Over the
including protests that are contrary to the Australian Constitution.
Last 9 months, we have a right to protest in this country. We have a right to peacefully protest.
But that doesn't make it right. Okay, protests come down to what you're standing for.
In this country.
But a security breach at Parliament House, you're a senator. Is that something you want to encourage?
We're not encouraging any protests that are, violent. And I think it was a bit rich of the Prime Minister to say that kind of unfurling a banner from the top of the Parliament House was somehow not a peaceful protest.
Well,
You've got to be kidding. They're not even supposed to be up there. This guys, this is disgraceful. Look, honestly, who is this person?
It was a peaceful
it
protest.
is a breach of security, though. It forces the building to be shut down, the Australian Parliament.
Sure, I understand that, but let's also put this into perspective. People are really angry. They have been really angry now for months.
Yeah, but it's not Australia's problem. We didn't cause it. Why be disrespectful to Australia and spray paint all over the men that died for this country? Who do these people think? This is, viewers, this is out of control. She's got no conscience or respect for anything constitutional in Australia at all.
Months and months. Their government, their Prime Minister, people who they voted for, who they thought would represent them, have not represented them, have not even listened to them, have not even spoken to them. What are people supposed to do?
I heard that.
Well, hang on, she represents them. She goes, what are they supposed to do? Well, what are they supposed to do? Burn down Parliament House, are they? This woman is a fanatic. She encourages it. She's not standing down, and she doesn't belong in the Australian Senate. She belongs in the Palestinian Senate.
Targeting the War Memorial, is that okay as well?
So, I mean, I again think that talking about...
Isn't that a yes and no answer? Here we go.
Some paint on a building rather than what's happening.
No, hang on a sec. What's happening in Palestine's got nothing to do with these mugs and thugs painting our war memorials. This woman, my goodness, guys, how is she getting away with this?
Israel.
This is a pretty sacred building for a lot of
people. I wouldn't have done it, but I understand that people are angry, and people want some way of the government to listen to them. And if the Prime Minister is interested...
And you think she's saying then that it's okay to go around and vandalise and spray paint and, you know, whatever these thugs are doing for the name of Palestine's okay. Watch this, viewers. Now, viewers, I'm just going to show you how fanatical this woman is. Penny Wong has been hounded by this woman for I don't know how long, but you can see she's at her end. They're in the middle of this Senator Faruqi trying to get money for corrupted Unrwa, and Penny Wong's trying to get through to her and she can't. You can see the disdain on this lady's face in defence of Penny Wong. You watch Penny Wong. You have to applaud this woman for what she does here. Penny Wong. I didn't know much about Penny Wong, but I wasn't a fan. But I have to say I respect this woman now.
Minister, don't you dare accuse me of whipping up anger and compare me to the people who actually whip up anger and are divisive.
Please,
Senator,
sorry, Minister.
Sorry.
Can we just please all cool the temperature a little bit, please?
I'm happy to.
Now, Senator, please allow the Minister just to conclude, and we'll quickly come back to your questions.
This Marie Farquhar, whatever her name is, she's a bully. She's a standover. Penny Wong has been so cool. You watch this, viewers.
I would say, Senator Faruqi, even in that question, and in many questions you have asked, you persist in making
telling the truth,
inflammatory assertions which are not true.
Minister, did you speak to Mr. Lazzarini before you made an announcement to suspend funding? I'm sorry, that's my question. Could you please answer that question?
Philippi Lazzarini is the guy that runs Unrwa, right? He runs Unrwa. He's well aware of how corrupt it is. Why should Penny Wong have to ring him and give account to him and ask him before she pulls the funding? She doesn't have to. This woman's completely out of control.
Well, you just have to wait for that question till the Minister just concludes her answer to your first question.
Thank you.
That is my first question.
Well,
okay.
there was
and we'll come to it.
Senator Faruqi, you made a lot of loaded assertions, and I'm entitled to respond to them, actually. And I would remind you that we have seen incidents in our community which included laying false corpses outside of MPs' offices, threatening emails and phone calls to staff in electorate offices, weaponising the imagery of deceased children, spraying fake blood on shop fronts, of electorate officers. We have staff who are intimidated and threatened. And what I would say to you is
And on top of that, respectfully, Miss Wong, the vandalism of Australian war memorials.
Party has a responsibility, as all of us do, to not legitimise that by using inflammatory language and perpetuating untruths. Because that is what
Telling the truth is not inflammatory language.
Perpetuating an untruth.
No one is perpetuating
You are.
untruths. Which
because
untruths?
you are asserting that we have cut funding to Unrwa. It
You
is
have
not true.
suspended funding to Unrwa.
May I
That is
finish?
what I have
May I
asserted.
finish?
No.
I
can't see why Miss Penny Wong has to argue the toss with this woman. Gosh, this woman's fanatic,
people
radical.
not protesting, then he should sit down with his community, his own community in Grangler, talk
Well,
to
speaking
them,
of that, you've also
hear
been
what
there.
they're saying.
I'll show you that this is what you've been posting, various images of the protest outside the Prime Minister's electorate office in Marrickville. And you've been sharing a lot of these videos and images as well. It has seen the office shut down for months. People can't get in to access the services that they need to access. Why do you need to blockade an electorate office?
The electorate office, firstly, is not blockaded.
It has been
Can I
shut
say
down.
that?
And
Yes,
staff
it
have
was. Yes, it was.
The Prime Minister made that
spat
decision.
on.
I don't know about that, but
Yeah, she spat on someone. She's a grub.
people do have a right to go outside the Prime Minister's office and request that he meet them. The Prime Minister should just meet them rather than blaming those who are protesting a genocide.
Are you exploiting
They're not protesting a genocide.
the tragedy in Gaza for political gain?
I find that, I'm sorry to say, really offensive, really offensive,
It's not offensive. It's absolutely true.
David.
Well, this is
Those
what
sorts
the Prime Minister
yeah,
and
well,
Foreign
I
Minister
find that really
constantly
offensive.
accuse you of. I'm just asking you, do you...
Absolutely. They are saying that, they are accusing us of causing division. And like I said earlier, that is gaslighting, raising an issue that thousands upon thousands
Of Muslims,
of Australians, and it's not just
of Muslims.
Muslims, it's not just Arabs. I can tell you, I get it, someone in my community gets in touch with me every single day, and I'm not exaggerating,
You are
to say how grateful they are for the Greens for being their voice on this
Do
issue.
you feel any responsibility to dial down the temperature on this?
This whole, you were talking about this earlier on social cohesion and how, I find that also, kind of very weird that here we have two major parties who, right at this time, are dog whistling on migrants and on international students, which is really harming and hurting the community, stand there and say, oh, we need social cohesion. The message that the community is getting is, you shut up. You have no right to talk about this. That's what social cohesion is about.
No, that's absolutely false and untrue. In Australia, everybody has a voice.
To shutting up people who are saying things that the government doesn't like. That's not good enough. That is not good enough. We should have a voice, and people are even more angry.
They have been given a voice, they've got a voice, and they need to use it.
And now, the only voice in the Labour Party who has kind of
How many billions of dollars did they spend on the voice for the Aboriginals? What's this woman talking about?
spoken out against this issue has been treated the way that Senator Payman has been treated.
And now sitting on the crossbench. Look, Senator Faruqi, we will have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me, David.
Oh my goodness. Wow. So viewers, all that has been the foundation to set up this thing for Unrwa. Now listen to this.
Personally participated in the massacre of October 7th, which involved the murder of 1,200 Israelis, along with mass rape, torture, and mutilation.
We know of at least 2 cases in which Unrwa teachers kept Israeli hostages in their dwellings.
Estimates of around 1,200 out of the approximate 30,000 employees of Unrwa who are directly members of Islamic Jihad, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and Hamas.
It's a key UN agency that over the past decade, Australian taxpayers have handed over around $200 million to help fund. Revelations that
We've funded this Unrwa with over $200 million. Come on.
dozen Unrwa staff participated in the brutal October 7 massacre on Israel is just the tip of the iceberg. In this Sky News special report, we look at how Australia and other Western nations are responsible for turning a blind eye and handing over.
Look at these mugs taking selfies in their destruction. No, No, and these people are infiltrating the Western world.
Cash to an organisation that's alleged to have deep links to terror, and the signs that it won't be long until we're back funding an agency that's been accused of perpetuating hate and war. Sky News Digital Originals presents Unrwa Exposed. The United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees in the Near East, also known as Unrwa, began operations in 1950, which it claims carries out direct relief and programs for Palestinian refugees. It operates in Jordan, Lebanon.
Now, viewers, the Palestinians aren't refugees. Most of them have been born there.
Syria, the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. The agency insists it helps more than 2 million people in Gaza. But human rights advocates are sounding the alarm over what UNRWA really is.
UNRWA is not really a UN humanitarian agency. It has 30,000 Palestinians who work for them. There's a handful of Western managers. There's a Swiss manager, a Norwegian deputy commissioner, a spokesman who may be Australian, that sort of thing. It's maybe 50 or so international Western figures. Otherwise, it's a Palestinian organization which is dedicated to the so-called return of Palestinians from 1948. So, the UN speaks of a two-state solution, but actually UNRWA believes there's a Palestinian state that they want to create, which they even recognize today, plus the Palestinian so-called refugees from 1948 are supposed to go back to and dismantle Israel.
So there's always been a Palestinian state. This is what you've got to understand. But they're not civilized enough to be able to build it into a functioning state, because the government's a muss and they're taking everything out of it and starving their people, and they're even selling the food aid that this Unrwa, which is run by the Palestinians, Hamas is getting the food aid and selling it on the black market, not even giving it to their people. Now, if you don't believe me, listen to this. Now, viewers, these are the people on the ground that are relying on UNRWA. But listen to this woman. You know that all the people here cannot find anything to eat or drink.
انت عارف انه كل الناس هذه ما حدش لا لاقي شرب واكل كلهم بيعانوا الوضع.
Yes, everybody is hungry and thirsty. The situation is difficult. No aid is coming in. The aid is coming in. We've seen it time and time again.
الوضع صعب لا تدخل مساعدات.
ما في
All the aid goes to the tunnels. Guess who runs the tunnels? Hamas, underground.
المساعدات كلها نازلة تحت. المساعدات ما بيجوا للأمة.
It does not reach everyone. It does not reach the people.
ولا بيجي للشعب كله. إحنا جايين من غزة.
We come here from Gaza City. All the aid is meant for us.
كل الدعم بيجي إلنا. أنا بحكي.
I'm not afraid of Hamas. I'm talking to them as well.
ما بخافش منهم. أنا بحكي إلهم كمان. أنا كل الدعم بيجي لقطاع.
All of the aid reaches the Gaza Strip. It all gets there. And now these people are starting to panic because she's saying too much. The kids don't care because they just want food. Reporter says a lot of aid is coming. It is being distributed. That's why they say. That's what they say.
الاشي قليل وبيتوزع هيك بيحكوا.
No, the woman says. Oh, no, you don't. No, you don't. Hamas takes everything to their homes. Now, this is what I'm saying to you. Hamas has set UNRWA up as its surrogate minder of the people because it uses all its money to build terrorism tunnels and military might. Right? But even the stuff that UNRWA is supposed to supply to these people gets taken by Hamas as well. All this rubbish that Israel is trying to do, a genocide, is it's just a narrative that doesn't exist. They can take me, shoot me, or do whatever they want to me. It seems that the situation is unclear. The situation's very clear. He's panicked. He's telling her to shut up. The situation is very clear. Absolutely clear.
Some people would say, and I'm one of them, that the funding to UNRWA should have been cut off many, many years ago. It was created about 75 years ago, went into operation. It was after the 1948 war, a war that the Arab states waged against Israel, and it's perpetuated this image of Palestinian refugees for 75 years. This is already the third or fourth generation.
But the third and fourth generation born in Palestine, that's not refugees. That's people of origin. Palestine is their nation, their state. But they couldn't build a state out of it. They were too ignorant and stupid and destructive. Viewers, you'll have to come back to the next session. We'll continue this then.